Hello, everyone. This is Tamika Peters, President and CEO of Grow Your Nonprofit, where we help small, startup, and stagnant nonprofits grow through fundraising strategies, strategic planning, and so much more. Guys, today you're in for a treat. We have Grow Your Nonprofit's consultant, Chris. She'll be joining us for a discussion on common year-end giving pitfalls. But before we get started, I'd like to thank the sponsors of my podcast. Trinity Life Foundation Naples, helping at-risk youth through their enrichment programs. AVID, that stands for the Associations of Haitians Living Abroad. They just opened an amazing support center in Fort Myers where they will help you with immigration support, utility billing, and English as a second language. Premier Mobile Health Services, your route to better health. Last but not least, Best Insurance USA, Florida Blue provider. So let's get right into it, Chris. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's go.
So we just talked about Grow Your Nonprofit. We believe that nonprofits should run like a business. Our core values are a commitment to our clients' results, integrity, transparency, and confidentiality. This is our vision and our mission. This is our rockstar team who makes it all happen to help our clients achieve their goals. So year-end fundraising. Chris, what does that mean anyway?
So year-end fundraising provides an opportunity for individuals to make a gift at the end of the year, sometimes with tax benefits, but really to get them into that seasonal giving spirit. I was actually shocked when I was doing research for this podcast that 30 to 50% of our annual giving at organizations occurs in the last 3 months of the year. So we need to be thinking at the beginning of the year, the calendar year, of what are we going to implement throughout the year so we have a very successful last 3 months of our giving year. And 10% of annual giving occurs in the last 3 days of the year. And so it's very important that you have staff on during the end of the year. So they're there to answer phones, emails, respond to questions for those donors who are making those gifts at the very last minute of the calendar year. And Tamika,
and
you were
what, guys? Yeah, and I just wanted to say, guess what? If your nonprofit is not asking, another nonprofit is asking, and they're maximizing their dollars, they're reaching their goals because they're pushing this 3 months before the year end. That'll put you in October, as well as 3 days in. And we'll get into further details on how to do that, what strategies to use to raise the most money. And then it benefits your donors as well because they're realizing the tax benefit.
Right. And so I've heard throughout the years and read several books about where donors feel like they're not really being talked to in a personal manner. And so this one donor said one of the biggest year-end fundraising mistakes is when organizations take a one-size-fits-all. And that oftentimes comes from poor planning. You're rushed. Oh my gosh, all of a sudden it's the end of September and we want to start getting appeal letters out, or it's October, we want to get appeal letters out before the year end, and you're not really aligning the messaging and the asks with the past giving behaviors of your donors who you're wishing to retain. And so that's a big miss. Donors don't feel like they're being talked to personally. And then this gentleman said that, by leveraging the priceless information in your database, there's capabilities to do variable print customizations. You can design an appeal that feels like it was personally written to each and every donor. And I've heard this time and time again. And so it's really, really important to take the time up front. And good news, guys, we're in August, right? So you've got the time to be planful. Right. If you haven't been up to this point, you still do have time to look at your database and personalize your appeals to your donors.
Mm-hmm. And what's important is that not to just reach out to donors when it's time to ask for money again, or because you have an event and you want them to become a sponsor or become a ticket holder. We're here in Southwest Florida. We know that our donors are seasonal. So with that said, you could take right now during the summer break to continue to date your donors, if you will. We talk about dating your donors throughout the summer, whether it's a quick text message or a phone call or an email. How are you doing? If it's their birthday, you maybe you're friends with them on social media. You see that they're on vacation and they went to Paris. But just keeping in contact, just like as if it was a date. And your donors will remember you at the end of the year, along with your plan to gear them up for the year-end giving. So what are the benefits of year-end giving? Well, guess what? It'll help you meet your annual goals. So, for example, if your annual goal is to raise $1 million, you break that down on how you plan to raise that $1 million. So, whether it's you have fundraising events, your year-end giving, you have your planned giving program, you might have your board members. I always say board members should be the first fundraiser of the year with when they sign their annual appeals, their annual commitment. Anything else, Chris?
No, I just think that it's being mindful of, again, 30 to 50% of your annual giving will occur in the last 3 months of the year. And so, like Tamika said, segmenting that out for your first quarter, second quarter, third quarter. So then you're poised at the end of the calendar year to, you've been talking with your donors all year. So now you're ready to make an ask of those annual donors to make a year-end gift. There's also tax benefits for the donors. That's not the primary reason most donors give, but there are some tax implications to be considered. A board member, or excuse me, a donor might have highly appreciated stocks, and they're philanthropically inclined, and they love your organization because you've been talking to them and they know the impact of their gifts. A very tax-wise thing for them to do is to make their gift through their stock, highly appreciated stock. They don't have to pay the capital gains tax on that then. And then they get the benefit. And so talking to your donors and saying, hey, there's opportunities here yet before the year end to make a gift. If somebody is age 73 now or older, they have what's called a required minimum distribution to make through their IRA account. They can make up to $100,000 of that gifted to charities of their choice. And so talking with them and saying, don't forget to, you have to take your required minimum distribution, and you can include us as a part of that. And then they don't have to pay the income tax on what they are gifting to you. It has to come directly from the retirement account, but there's ways to do that. And Tamika and I are happy to walk you through that if you have any questions. So just reach out to us.
Chris, I think maybe during the year-end giving, when it comes to tax benefits for donors, you have 30 years of experience, and this was specifically what you did at the hospitals you worked at. But I'm thinking the reason why a lot of nonprofits don't do it and talk about tax benefits is perhaps they're intimidated. Maybe they feel that they're not as knowledgeable about this subject, so they don't feel comfortable talking to their donors about it. What strategies, Chris, do you recommend they use to become more comfortable to have these conversations with their donors?
I think really developing relationships with financial advisors is important. And in your communication to your donors, be saying, it's a great time of year to do a check-in with your financial advisor to learn if there are situations that you would really benefit by making a charitable gift at the year end. I had a gentleman who had sold a business and had a very high capital gains from the business he sold. And so it was imperative that he made a gift by year end. There's something called the standard minimum deduction. For couples, that's $27,700. For individuals, it's $13,000. So if they're making gifts above and beyond that, they would itemize their taxes. So this gentleman was going to be making a gift larger than the $27,000. And he was then going to be itemizing. And so there were some really big tax benefits for him in that situation. But really familiarize yourself with your financial advisors, and they can be very, very helpful. And what you give them then back is saying, I will keep you on my referral list for individuals who are looking for financial planners. So with the snowbirds coming to Minnesota, they might not have financial planners in Florida. I'm from Minnesota. And so there's different tax implications state by state. And so being able to connect your donors while they're in Florida with tax advisors, certified tax planners, financial advisors in Florida is really, really important. And so you're adding those advisors to your resource list, which is a benefit to them, right? So it's potential clients. So we don't need to know everything, but you need to know who to ask. And so
exactly. And I've even heard one of my clients tell me, I don't want to ask my friend to give because I don't want him to think that I just friends with him to make a donation. And I told him, I said, either he gives it to your charity, to Uncle Sam, or another charity. If you don't ask, you don't get. And I said the donor is getting the tax benefit. So like I said, either they're giving it to Uncle Sam or they're giving it to charity. It's not for you, it's for the charity. So a lot of people feel guilty, like they're asking, like it's a sales job. But it goes back to what you mentioned. If you have a great, comfortable relationship with your donor, it's just a matter of having a conversation, going for coffee or going to lunch and asking about the family, how everything is going, and then talk about your organization, the great things you're having, upcoming programs. So in October, maybe you're having coffee with your donor, you're talking about your year-end giving and all the plans you have. Your donor might, wheels may start turning and say, well, how can I help? How can I get involved? I know a lot of times when I would give tours of the eye clinic that I ran, I would just show the donor the eye clinic. I would have patients that were asked to come in and talk to the donor, and the donor would want to just write a check right away. Like, how can I get involved? And I never had to ask because they were just so overwhelmed as to the impact we were making in people's lives that they just wanted to know how could they help. They couldn't wait to help.
Yeah.
So you wanted to say something, Chris?
Well, I was just going to add that when I went into individual giving, I had done event planning for many years. And I went into individual giving, and in my brain, I was like, oh, I don't want to ask people for money. And so I just made the shift is I'm not asking people for money. I'm asking them to do something that they care about.
Right.
I'm providing them the opportunity to do something that will make them feel wonderful. And so just that shift in my brain made my messaging much different. When I'm talking to friends about supporting the organizations that I've worked for, it's just letting them know what we do and the impact that we have. And it's not, like you said, they want to write a check. They want to get involved, you know. Your charities are doing phenomenal work in your communities, and people want to be a part of something like that where they can really have an impact. So that's all I was going to say.
Exactly. So seasonal giving spirit, what does that mean anyway? So seasonal giving spirit, we're talking about Thanksgiving, we're talking about Christmas. The last 3 months of the year, that's when people really want to give. They give in the season of Thanksgiving. So, for example, if you have a children's charity or abused women's shelter, you can have an event where maybe you're going to be feeding people for Thanksgiving. Get your donors involved. Get them on the planning committee. Talk about this event that's coming up where you're going to feed the patrons or the children's families. Talk about maybe you guys cook together, or maybe you sit down and the kids have a contest where they're decorating a paper turkey, and just getting your donors involved and engaged in the process, and not just waiting to the end of the year giving. Also Christmas, I know there's Toys for Tots. A lot of nonprofits do things for seniors where they have a Christmas tree and they have tags on the tree where seniors might want a special gift, and you can bring it. And when you have those events, you can get your donor in the mood. You could play some music. You could plug in one of the Glades plug-in, maybe the scent smells like pumpkin spice, or maybe it smells like pine cones, or anything that reminds you of Christmas or Thanksgiving, and playing some music in the background, getting them in the giving spirit and just making them feel really good about it. And that's also, I know number 4 is social media, but that's also an opportunity to get those videos, to get those pictures posted on social media, tagging your donor. The donor is going to share it with their friends and family. Their friends are going to see it. And I just want to say, with anything, people value the recommendation and opinion of their friends before any other charity and or business. For example, when you think about going into town, somewhere you've never been before, first thing you do is ask your friends, have you ever been there before? Where do you recommend things to do? What's the great restaurants? People like recommendations. Word of mouth is huge. So if they see your charity having this event, their friend is there, their friend is having a good time. Maybe they're snowbirds too. Maybe they say when they come down, I want to get involved too. So it makes everyone feels good. And now you're turning that one-time donor into maybe a lifelong donor, because they got involved and they see that you're doing what you say you're doing. Do you have something to add to that, Chris?
Yeah, so it's also, year-end fundraising is very important again. But what we did in November every year was send Thanksgiving cards and just saying we're grateful for you, we're grateful for your donations, and we would plan this in the fall early fall. So we would, September, late August, early September, we would get our materials ordered, designed and ordered, and then get them to the hospital where I work. So then we could personally sign them and put personal notes, especially for those of us who, had a portfolio of our major donors. We would write personal notes to every single donor, and we made sure that we had enough time to do that, so we weren't like slammed. And so by the week before Thanksgiving, they were in the mail, ready to go, personalized. And we just thanked, and then the year-end appeal would come in early December. And so again, it's just thanking before you're asking again. And so that was really, really critical. And then I think we've touched a lot on online and social media presence. Just sharing and posting what you're doing is critically important, because people want to be a part of something. Like Tamika said, where people are having fun, they want to be a part of that. They want to know about the impact. The testimonials are so critical from your clients, your patients. And also online and social media presence. We'll talk a little bit about this on the next slide, but taking advantage of things like Giving Tuesday, which is December 3rd this year. There's a lot of resources that you can do on their website that talk about events and ways that you can push out giving on Giving Tuesday. Now, I would say don't just focus on Giving Tuesday, because everybody's being bombarded that day, right? So you want to set yourself apart leading up to that and after that. So anything else on social media you wanted to add to me?
No. I like what you said about Giving Tuesday leading up to the event, because the day of, that's when everyone has. But yeah, just always being really proactive and making your donors feel like they're involved and they're engaged in the process throughout the year. Not just when you want to give money, because people know when you're not genuine, and you'll notice they'll start dropping off with their gift and involvement in your organization if they think that you're just like their ATM. So you never want to be perceived like that. Common mistakes. We talked about this earlier. Poor planning. It takes nothing to, at the beginning of the year, whenever your fiscal year is, to plan before your new fiscal year enters. So you have a calendar of events. When I say calendar of events, it doesn't just mean events per se. It means it includes your year-end giving, any events that you're having. If you have a donor appreciation day, if you have a volunteer day, all of those things are on your calendar, even down to when you need to file your 990, or if you have anything that's coming up, if you have a planned giving panel discussion, or if you're going to do like so many social media posts, you're going to do 3 posts a week. So everything that you're going to do, you're going to have that in your calendar of events with the timeline, and you're going to have someone designated who manages that process. And at every meeting, whether that's weekly or monthly, you're discussing, you're measuring your outcomes. So what did you set out to do, and what were your actual results? You're always keeping track of that. So what's the saying? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So having your timeline, having your strategy is very important. Chris, can you touch on lack of donor segmentation?
Sure. So with the 2 donor examples we had earlier in the presentation, lack of donor segmentation is significant. Penelope Burke, who's out of Canada, has written a book, Donor-Centered Fundraising, actually a couple iterations of that now. And it really talks about why donors don't give again and don't stay with organizations is that it's not personalized. They're just lumped in together. So looking in your database at the giving history of your donors who have been giving to you for a very long time, you might want to customize the messaging to them. Thank you so much for your 10 years of support. We really appreciate this, and this is what you've done. We hope you will continue. Looking at what their capacity is, they might have the capacity to make a $10,000, $25,000, $50,000 gift. Doesn't mean they will this year, but you've looked at the capacity, and you can change your messaging a little bit to talk a little bit more about transformational giving. You're often not going to get a major gift through a direct mail appeal or an annual appeal. It does happen, and it's very wonderful when it does, but it's very rare. But just you're teeing it up for future conversations, right? So talking about the transformational giving, if you have those donors who have very large capacity, and again, being aware of what their preferences are for giving: online, direct mail, personal solicitation. I have donors who they were major donors, and I did personal solicitations with them every year. And so when it came time to review the annual appeal letters and who they were going to go to, I took Doug and Barbara off the list because I asked them for a gift or provide them an opportunity personally. And he called me. He's like, Chris, we didn't get our year-end appeals. And I'm like, well, Doug, you and Barbara give to us, through meeting, and, it's personal solicitation. He goes, well, at the end of the year, we love to write out checks. And, I'm of the age where I have to take my required minimum distribution, and I want to make sure to maximize that. And so we want to give it the year end, and we like to get those letters. And so we were great because we had very customized letters. And so we sent them out the next year, and sure enough, she made her gift to mental health and he made his gift to neuro research. So asking those questions is critical as well. How do you like to give? I just assume because we did personal solicitation, they didn't want an annual appeal letter. I should have asked that, right? Because they had been giving through that channel. So just really looking at your donors and doing as much personalization as you can. I know if you're a small shop, that's hard, but taking the time and planning in advance will give you the time to set that up so you're not scrambling year end. I will make a statement about planning as well, that there's been paper shortage over the last several years, and so it can take longer to get your print materials. So if you are doing printing year end, printed appeals, printed thank you cards, be sure to talk to your vendors now to see what their lead time is, so you're not getting into a crunch come October, November, December.
Yeah, exactly. And before we move on to overlooking donor retention, I want to talk about lack of donor segmentation. Like Chris said, we shouldn't assume, and I've heard oftentimes a lot of nonprofits, they sort of overlook donors who have given very, very small amounts. And I would like to say is that sometimes donors will test you. They will give $5 to see if you're going to send them a thank you letter. They might give $25, but they have the capacity to give way more. So don't discount the donors who've given $5 or just given $100. Treat them just like they're $1 million donor. I know when I was in banking, I learned really quickly to never assume someone was wealthy or not based on the way they were dressed. I had this one client that I opened an account for. He would come in with boat shorts, boat shoes, and just a plain polo shirt. But he owned a multi-million-dollar construction company that built Walmarts, and he drove a Rolls Royce. So you just can't judge people by the way they look, or if they just donated $100. They may be testing you just to see how you treat them. So don't discount that. So overlooking donor retention. So what's the saying? It's cheaper to keep your donor than it is to acquire a new one. Treat your donors like your client versus your customers. Customers come and go, but your clients, we have their contact information. We know their birthday. We know about their family. Look at your donors the same way. And I'm going to go right back to dating your donors. So you will keep your donors if your donors stay informed. If you thank your donors, you cultivate your donors. I would go on coffee calls, like once a quarter minimum. I would have my list of donors. We would meet for coffee and we would talk. And some of them I still even have a relationship with just because of that donor cultivation. Anything you'd like to add to that, Chris?
Well, just that it's much more cost effective to retain your donors than it is to acquire new donors. You still need to always be thinking about donor acquisition because that's how you build your donor base, right? But, not forgetting about those loyal donors that you've had for years and really continuing to enhance those relationships. We talked a lot about multi-channel fundraising, but organizations, just get so caught up in the end of the year rush that sometimes they forget about all of the things that they can be doing that will enhance one another and feed off each other. And so, incorporating the social media, the direct mail, because people do still do the direct mail appeals in the mail. But be sure to have that online presence as well. Having small events. The fall is a great time to do your gratitude events for your donors. We used to have an evening of gratitude at the last organization I was with, which people just loved, and it was just thanking them. But we had it in October, leading up to end of the year. So it was very strategic, right? So all of your events are strategic and have a purpose, but are also there to thank your donors. And again, capitalizing on events like Giving Tuesday. When I was in Minnesota, we also had Give to the Max Day, which was November 7th, or the week of November 17th, whenever that fell. And so, there might be different opportunities depending on the states where you're located, where you can capitalize on those online giving events and activities. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to piggyback on what you said. I think a lot of organizations don't really realize the benefits of having these smaller events, the more intimate events, because you at those events, say if someone one of your donors has a cocktail party at their house and maybe they invite 10 or 20 people, it could be one person that could stroke a check for $10,000, $25,000 or more, because you're really getting the chance to know them, and you don't have the nuances of setting up and having a speaker speak and making sure everything is going to plan. You're sitting down and you're having a real intimate conversation with these folks, and you're getting to know them. They're getting to know your charity. It's just beneficial. And it would be great that if more nonprofits do that, because say, for example, if you had a fundraising lunch or dinner and you're a small nonprofit, so let's just say you raised 20,000 or 50,000, but say if you had 5 board members, and each of those board members had an event or a cocktail party at their house, and they donated their friends, you probably could raise that same amount of money or less. And guess what? You have less expenses because you don't have to plan the event. You don't have to pay for the venue, the food. If you have alcoholic beverages, and it costs you almost nothing. And then if your board member is hosting it, more than likely they're covering the cost because you could just have wine and cheese, or work with a local restaurant to donate the food or give it to you at a discount. So I think I want people to not discount the power of these small, intimate events, especially with us being in Southwest Florida, being very seasonal. So the snowbirds start to come back in late October, November. Why don't you have a kickoff cocktail party? At the board members' home, where there's a welcome back party at these small. I think that would be really awesome.
Yeah. Actually, U.S. Bank does that. They've got locations in Minnesota, and so they do a welcome back party for the Minnesotans who are snowbirds down there, and they're their clients, and it's great.
Mm-hmm.
People look forward to it. That's on a larger scale, but I love the idea of the small cocktail party welcoming a board member, welcoming folks back. And the board member could be seasonal as well, right? And so they're just, hey, let's get together. Let's really ramp up for, this art center, and all of the events that are going to be coming while we're here during the season. So I love the small events. You get to know people. It's more intimate.
Ineffective storytelling. Well, how could you be most effective with your storytelling? Well, I love videos. I love photos, and it doesn't have to be a whole lot. It could be short, sweet, to the point. And be very effective, and perhaps you have maybe 5 components that you touch on, maybe something that aligns with your program. That would be one component, whether that's your planned giving, your year-end giving. It has to do with animals, but it hits on some of your core values or your mission. Also impact. Like what they say with men like the numbers and statistics, but women, you got to tug at their heartstrings. So having that as sort of like a checklist of the effective storytelling. Any other points we should be thinking about when we're telling stories, Chris?
I think it's just so important to have a face for the organization, or faces of the organization, be that pets, be that clients or patients, or donors telling their testimonials, and pictures, speak 1,000 words, right? And so having somebody who looks like me on an appeal letter saying, I give, it makes me the recipient of this letter. Oh, well, if she can do this, so can I, right? And so it really puts a face to your organization, and really helps, again, with the personalization that we talked about, is having board members or donors share their stories in appeal letters is really, really effective. So, and leads to, oh, I'm just like that person. I can do this too. And I one of the biggest things is neglecting follow-up. When you were talking about where you can go and take the ornament off the tree and buy a gift for a senior or for a kid. I think that is a phenomenal idea for any nonprofit to partner with local restaurants and to have something like a giving tree, and your customers feel great. I mean, my husband and I, we don't have kids. We take ornaments off the tree. We buy the gifts. It's so fun. And we bring the gifts back to the restaurant that has this giving tree. You know what, though? But we were never thanked. And we will do it again just because it's something really fun for us. But the organization who the gifts were going to never thanked the donors. And, our names were on the list. So we never got a call or a card from the organization that we provided the gifts for, even though it was through the restaurant venue. The restaurant thanked us, of course, but so really that follow-up is so important. Setting that up, planning that in advance. Okay, donors who make gifts of $1,000 or above are going to get a call from a board member. And then you have messaging. You have different messaging for your new donors. So you're acquiring new donors. We developed a welcome packet for our new donors and said, welcome to our family, essentially. Of course, the language was a little bit different. And so having different messaging, again, segmenting those donors who are coming in, having that personal, it might be just a voicemail that a donor is leaving, but you have a small script for them to follow. They call, they thank, it's not an ask, it's just really genuine. And then again, updating on the impact. So they gave to this appeal. You talk to them first quarter of next year and say, this is what these gifts enabled us to do. Thank you so much. And then just staying connected, like we've talked about all through this presentation, with social media posts, birthday cards, emails. I would put in my calendar when I was going to touch base with donors. So our database allowed me to put in an action date, would pop up on my calendar. And then I would be sure that I would have 6 touches with every major donor, in my case, throughout the year. So when it came to year end, they weren't surprised. I worked at one organization and the leader didn't want anybody to take extended vacations the last 3 months of the year. I'm like, if we haven't been doing our work all year long, that is not gonna, just us being here is not gonna be beneficial. I understood the rationale, but I need to be talking to my donors year round, not just October, November, December. And so that's just critically important. You'll get some donors year end who you don't talk with during the year, but if you really want to have an effective overall annual giving program, you're having those communications with your donors year round.
And we get it. It's a lot of work to plan, to follow up, to date your donors. But guess what? It pays off. It pays off. So even if you're on a shoestring budget, you don't have a lot of staff, that's where your volunteers and your ambassadors come in. If maybe you could have interns helping you. But if you plan early, and then you could say every Friday, we're not doing anything, or even if it's an hour or two, all we're doing is focus on cultivation. And you have your board members help you with that. Maybe you set aside one board meeting or the first 30 minutes of a board meeting to specifically work on that, because where there's a will, there's a way. And then planning, it all boils down to planning. And if you don't have the know-how and you don't have the talent to do so, then that's where you could hire Grow Your Nonprofit to help you in that process. But planning is very important.
Absolutely. So we've got sample annual plans that we could share with you and help you set it all up. I mean, if you have your calendar planned out, so you don't have that rush, and you're not like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. You've got it planned out. And when you're doing your annual plan, if you say, God, this is a lot, or goodness, this is a lot, then cut some things out. You have to be very, very realistic about what you can accomplish with the size of your organization. And doing less, better, will have better outcomes.
Exactly. Yep. Less is more. That's what we always say.
Yeah.
So with that said, I hope that everyone was able to learn something from today's presentation and boot camp. We hope that you would join us next month. Chris, would you like to share with our audience what our boot camp will be for next month?
Well, it's going to be segmenting off this presentation. And so we're going to be talking about the importance of donor retention, what that is, how to make, to involve your donors again throughout the year. But the fundraising effectiveness project, they analyze each year kind of what the trends are in fundraising, and we're really seeing a drop in donor retention. And so it's critically important for organizations to be focused on donor retention in this next year, because again, it's much more cost effective to retain your donors than to acquire new donors. And so we'll be talking a lot about that. And it's a trend across the country. And so we really want to work with organizations and help you be successful in retaining those donors who care so much about you.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. This is Tamika. I'm signing off. You heard Chris. Please join us at our next boot camp. We'll be sending out the information within the next couple of days. Everyone who registered for today's boot camp will receive a copy of our PowerPoint presentation. If you have any questions, we do offer one free 30-minute consultation, and we can help you with our strategic planning, fundraising strategies, starting up your plan giving program, and so much more. Any last words, Chris?
No, just thanks so much, and get to work for the last quarter.
All righty. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.